The 2024 NFC West Fantasy Football Preview and Best Bets on Old Fashioned Football on the Sports Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 100 times your entry with Underdog Fantasy Pick'em. Sign up with OFF SGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code OFF SGPN. We're also brought to you by the Mega Memorial Merch Sale. 15% off everything in the SGPN merch store with promo code SGPN May.
Hey, what's up? This is Sam Acho, and you're listening to Old Fashioned Football.
Old Fashioned Football.
Make this deal right now, you pancake eating mother.
All right, deal.
Old Fashioned Football.
Welcome to Old Fashioned Football. We are previewing the divisions already, which seems crazy, but we looked at the calendar and we got to start now if we want to get through them all before you're drafting. If you're wondering who you're listening to, that's fair. This is JMark. You can find me on the X at JMark Football. And before we keep going, I got to introduce my co-host on the pod and in life, Mir. You can find her on the X at the Mir Mark. You can find us at Old Fashioned FB. Mir, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I feel like it's been a minute.
It has
We
been.
had a little bit of a pause
Yeah,
there.
we missed last week. Well, we didn't miss. We decided to postpone. There's just a lot going on and everything. So yeah, we decided to postpone a little bit, but we're back and we got all our division previews to go. And we have special guests today.
We do.
Which is fun. And we're going to bring them on in a little bit. But yeah, do you want to tell everybody what we're kind of, I guess, talking about today?
Well, today, not obviously for us, we're going to be talking about the NFC West Fantasy Football Preview. It's going to be our first of our 8 division previews.
Yeah. The first of many, which of course is the 49ers, and both of our guests are 49ers fans.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to try to deal with that.
Yes, we've
Bring
got
the hype down a little bit.
I don't know. But you've got the 49ers, you have the Seahawks, we're going to be talking about the Rams and the Cardinals.
Yeah. And real quick before we bring them on, what are we drinking today?
We are drinking, and I just took a drink of this. You didn't do too bad. I haven't decided if you made it normal or not.
Doesn't mean I did too good, apparently.
We are drinking Belfour Bourbon. It's their Texas pecan bourbon. So it's finished with Texas pecan wood.
Yeah. Really interesting.
Do we need to do the pecan or pecan?
You know, I'm going to ask the guests when we bring them on how they say it. I prefer to say pecan, but that is just me. Shout out to the chat real quick. Jamie, hey, what's up?
Hello.
Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us again. And real quick, before we bring on the guests, now this kind of relates to one of our guests, but it's the biggest week in racing. The Indy 500, Monaco Grand Prix, and the Coke 600, Rod and Cody from the NASCAR Gambling Podcast and F1 Gambling Podcast have got you covered. Make sure to join their Kyle Larson diecast card giveaway. That's free to enter. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/race to register and make sure to subscribe to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast and F1 Gambling Podcast, but only if you want to be entertained and win money. If you don't want to win money or be entertained, don't subscribe. Plus, we're running a Mega Memorial Day merch sale, 15% off everything in the merch store, promo code SGPN May. And I know it says that we're sold out on hats right now. I talked to the merch god. He is looking into that. He's thinking maybe they just don't offer this style anymore. What
are we going to do?
He's going to get some others on.
Okay.
As soon as he's going to look into it tonight.
We reached out to today.
Yes.
Or yesterday.
Today.
It was today. See, today feels like it's been 2 days. About why our hats are out. And,
yeah. Yep.
And we're like, we didn't realize they were out.
Right. Shout out to the chat. I am Notorious says, come for the football, stay for the whiskey. You guys have me hooked already. Glad to be on board. Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet you.
Yes,
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining.
And yeah, we got some guests on. So I'm going to bring on the first one. And this guy, man, if you like this podcast, you really have him to thank in a sense, because he is the one that got me into podcasting. And then I got you into podcasting, brought you on this
Mhm.
crazy journey. He is the host that I just mentioned of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast and the F1 Gambling Podcast, Rod Villagomez. He is a 49ers fan. Rod, how you doing today?
Well, I'm sorry that I've introduced you into this deep, dark world of podcasting. I feel bad, but at least you get to do it with the love of your life, because there's not a lot of people that get to do that. She doesn't always say, when are you going to get done podcasting? When are you going to get out of that studio and that office? And then you have to say, I'm not. And then you get mad. You guys get to do it together. So cheers to you, by the way. Poured myself.
Ooh, what are you drinking with us?
Okay, because I'm not going to come to this show, first of all, empty-handed, and second of all, without a little creativity. I'm having a Godfather, which, by the way, I am notorious is my brother. He will definitely approve of this. He loves the Godfather, the movie. But the Godfather is this Buchanan's 12, right?
Okay.
Buchanan's Deluxe 12 with amaretto. So it's an amaretto and a Scotch whiskey hybrid type of a thing.
Yeah,
I like it.
On you. It's you guys need to try it. It's beautiful.
it sounds good.
Yeah, for sure. And the other guest, do you want to introduce him or you want me to?
Go, you're on a roll.
All
Go
right.
for it.
Our other guest lost his hair in 2017.
Oh we have to do a story before we even bring him on.
Okay.
I'm gonna embarrass him.
Go for it.
I met our next guest
Yeah.
when we were shortly around the time I met you in
Mhm.
college. And I don't remember when I started to ask him to grow his hair out just so I could see
Yes.
him once in
Just
my
wanted to
life
see him with long hair.
with not even long hair, just hair. And now he can't.
Now he can't.
He took that opportunity away from me. But let's continue.
Yes, he's been known as Pepe the Horse, but he's also an avid fantasy football player. He is a whiskey lover, and he may be getting into the podcast world. I'll let him decide if that's true or not. Mr. Nick Fortune, how you doing today?
I'm looking up memories right now when I actually had hair. You can see when I was a
Oh my
child
gosh.
right
Got
there.
a photo.
I did actually have hair.
He did have hair at one point.
Right there.
But
You can
not
clearly
since
see it.
you've known me in the last.
Hang on. Why are you
How
taller
long
than a
is
school bus?
It was a chopped school bus at a car show I usually go to in Des Moines.
Was
I've
the
told you
short
about this
bus.
many times. Yeah. Well, that's I was in the short bus. I rode the short bus all the time, and when I was in school. So yeah, brings back fond memories.
Yeah. Fair enough. We're here to talk NFC West. You guys both love the 49ers. Let's just start with Rod. When did you fall in love with the 49ers?
There was probably not a time when I was not in love with the 49ers. I think my earliest diapers had 49ers logos on them. All I know is that when I grew up, most of my family was 49ers fans. Most of my uncles. There was a couple strays. There was a Raiders fan in there and a Chargers fan in there. But for the most part, everybody was a Niners fan. So I grew up not knowing that there was any other team to cheer for but the San Francisco 49ers. And I continue now. I mean, like I said, I haven't stopped. I didn't grow up and have my own opinions. I really did go off of everything that I was taught. And what's not to love in the 80s, right? I mean, shoot, you're winning every Super Bowl imaginable. I just thought that was normal. And then, of course, the 90s and 2000 hit, and I realized that's not exactly how this worked. But still, stayed a fan to this day. Absolutely adore the Niners. Like I said, I've lived through some of the greatest moments in their history. And I just consider myself lucky to have been able to cheer and watch them and grow up with that strong bond with the team. And of course, my dad and family that all love the Niners too. So that's what sports does to you. And that's how I became a Niner fan and stayed that way.
And is that a Jeff Garcia jersey you're wearing? Yes, it is.
Yep.
Love it.
Probably the only person in the world that still sports a Jeff Garcia jersey. Love the Canadian football tie too.
Yeah, for sure. Nick, how about you? How'd you start being a 49ers fan?
You're going to laugh at the story of how I actually became a 49ers fan. It's when I was playing Tecmo Super Bowl with my brother. I would constantly keep choosing the San Francisco 49ers because the quarterback that I could actually say was not Joe Montana. It was Steve Young. So that's how that was my first quarterback I could actually pronounce well. So I've always been just an avid 49ers fan growing up. I was 49ers fan, loved Steve Young. And then we moved into the dark eras, which we won't really talk about. And now we're into Brock Purdy mode, So, yeah.
And he's got a George F. and Kittle shirt on.
I do. Yeah, guys.
Yeah.
Support.
Can I wear a shirt that says George F. and Kittle?
Well, all we can see is George.
George. It might be Curious George for all we know.
Yes.
He might not have pants on. Don't stand up too high.
I do have pants on. Just want to throw that out there. I do.
This
doesn't work. Rod's brother says, "Go Chiefs."
I know.
Jamie's first jersey was an oversized Jerry Rice 49ers jersey. Never grew into it. And how did those 49ers do in the 85 Super Bowl? They didn't, because the Bears won. That's right.
And that's all we can say about it.
It is all we can say about it. But, we might be turning the tide. We'll see.
Hoping.
We'll see.
I'm hoping.
Should we jump into this talking Seahawks?
Let's do it.
Because I know that's their least favorite team to talk about. So let's just get it out of the way.
Yeah, might as well get it out of the way.
Do you want to start with quarterback?
Sure. Let's talk about Geno Smith. So last season he brought in 235.3 fantasy points. With those points, he ranked QB 19, and he did have 2 top 5 finishes in there though. His average draft position right now is 5 spots below that at QB 24, and his average auction value is $1, which sounds about right to me. But what are you guys thinking about where he's going in this draft position and that value right now?
Yeah, and we'll mix up the order on who we ask, so nobody steals answers over and over. But let's start with Rod on this one.
So the question is, will Geno still be Geno at the end of the year? That's really ultimately what the question is, because as much as they love Geno Smith in Seattle, we remember that he's still Geno Smith. And again, Geno, I'll have a beer with you any day of the week. Like anytime I disparage a player and or somebody on our NASCAR show, I'm always saying, look, I'll have a beer with you. Let's hash this out, because I want to talk to you man to man. However, you can't deny the fact that you had a resurgence over the last couple of years, and that's fantastic. But how long does that last? And how long does the love affair with the shiny newness of a Geno Smith last after the Russell Wilson hangover ends? So the question you have to ask yourself when you draft him is, are you drafting a quarterback that you're going to have at the end of the year that's viable for you? And where can you find a quarterback that maybe not necessarily viable for you now, deeper down in the drafts, that will become viable for you at the end of the season, right? So Geno's a guy I'm passing on automatically, just not only because I hate the Seahawks, but because I don't want that headache. I don't want to wonder week to week, is this the week to play him? Especially even in a 2-quarterback league. In a 1-quarterback league, there's no way I'm taking him. But in a 2-quarterback league, even still, I want a different headache. I don't want the Geno Smith headache.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, when we started looking up the AAVs, he was $1. We thought, well, what about Superflex? Because he's probably going to be a little more in a Superflex. Geno Smith's still $1 in a Superflex, so he's valued very low. Nick, what do you think of Geno Smith? You're drafting him first round in every draft, I assume.
No. I mean, what are you talking about? No, don't give up my strategy yet. I mean, again, it's Geno Smith. I mean, thankfully in the Seahawks organization, he hasn't gotten punched by one of his linemen, so that's a good start. The other thing is that, I mean, he didn't really do that well last year compared to the previous year, which I do remember you telling me, Justin, oh, well, he's a top, he's a great quarterback, he's going to do so well. And then he didn't really do it good last year. He's probably a desperate person I would probably put on my roster. If anything, he's valued at $1. I'd pick him up as $1, I know it'd be $3 for free agency, but he's not really a guy I'm targeting for anything else.
Not to interrupt, but even in a super flex at $1, to even if he's not your QB2 at $1,
that now in the super flex, that might be all right.
You're still staying away from him at $1 in a super flex.
I'll pick him up off waivers if I need a guy in a bye week.
If I'm
I
desperate,
don't know if he's going to be on the waivers though. In a super flex league, he's not going to be on the waivers.
Give it till the bye weeks, he'll be there.
Yeah, right. Interestingly enough, Deshaun Watson, Will Levis being drafted right before him, and Derek Carr, JJ McCarthy being drafted right after him. That's who he's getting sandwiched in between. Nobody there really bringing a ton of excitement. Yeah, he was, Nick, you're right. Last year, he was on my sleeper list because he was $1 then. And I said, he's coming off a top 12 year. He's going to end up there again. I mean, look at his weapons. And he didn't. And so
He
this
slid.
year I'm more hesitant. Now, for $1 in a super flex league, I would throw him on the bench.
I think you have to, Rod. I think you have to weigh your options.
I'd rather spend $1 on Derek Carr, honestly,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that would, I feel like at least he, when he's put into situations, can deliver consistently. Consistently, not the best, but the very least consistently.
And if it's a keeper league, I've been reading so many rumors about Derek Carr ending up on Dallas next year after Dak is out of town. So very interesting. Apparently, Jerry Jones has a thing for Derek Carr.
Trey Lance enters the conversation.
Right, exactly. Why don't we talk about the running back?
All right. At running back, we got Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I'm going to start with Kenneth Walker. He finished as RB19 last year, but he did miss 2 games. He brought in 184.9 fantasy points, 1 top 5 finish. His current average draft position is RB15 with an AAV of $27.
Yeah, and Zach Charbonnet is back up. I don't know if he's worth going over. A lot of people had a lot of hype over him last year, and he didn't really live up to it because it was Walker's backfield. But even when Walker was hurt, Charbonnet didn't really take off and score you a lot of points.
You want me to give Charbonnet stats?
No, that's all
Compare
right.
them
I don't
both,
think
or-
we need to talk about Sharp
Okay.
too much. We'll start with Nick this time. What do you think of Zach Charbonnet?
Oh,
I mean,
throwing that
sorry.
out.
I mean,
Oh,
Kenneth
We
Walker.
won't
Sorry.
talk about Zach.
I was like,
Charbonnet.
we don't want to.
What do you think about him?
Well, he's not really that relevant now. Would I actually go with Kenneth Walker for that price? No, I would try not to. I don't. But again, I don't think he's going to go for that high amount of money for $27. I think a lot of people are going to, excuse my French, blow their wad on other players as well. I think it's going to be like, at least if I'm going to go for him, I'm going to go with $20 at least. Again, running backs are very critical. He does flash a little bit. I would still go, pick him up, if he's available, but that's about it. He's all right. But again, he's a Seattle player. I don't really like Seattle at all.
Yeah. You bring up some good points, and I do think he runs hard, but he missed the 2 games. You got to wonder at some point, because he is getting ran pretty hard, will he start breaking down? Rod, what do you think? Are you a Walker fan, or is it he's a Seahawk, I'm staying away?
I don't want to flood this entire section with he's a Seahawks to stay away. So I will say there is value in Kenneth Walker. Obviously, we know the Seahawks do want to establish the run. That is, I put that in air quotes because they always say we want to be a running team, Marshawn Lynch and all these other guys that are all this. But at the same time, it's like, Kenneth Walker, really though, $27 for him. I feel like I can spend that money so many other places on so many other running backs that I feel that consistently will get the work and aren't clouded by the fact that they are the Seahawks. So I don't know. I've missed on Kenneth Walker a couple of times, and I'm okay with that. I still compete week in and week out. The one week that I play the guy with Kenneth Walker, I'm like, I probably should have drafted him or should have paid up for him, but then I forget it and I move on. So yeah, Kenneth Walker, $27. That's a lot to spend on a running back that could get hurt.
I agree with you. And looking at, I know he missed 2 games last year, but with those 2 games out, okay, this is not perfect math, but averaging 11 points a game, maybe. Right?
Yeah.
Is that right? 12 points.
Yeah.
At $27 doesn't seem worth it to me. I do
Yeah.
think you could spend that $27 somewhere else and get somebody who's going to bring in.
And just for reference, he's going just ahead of Joe Mixon, who I like Joe Mixon's year this year. He's going ahead of Alvin Kamara, which I can see people making a debate between those two. Aaron Jones, who
I was going to say, I'd rather do Aaron Jones in Minnesota for that.
Yeah. Yep.
Alvin
Absolutely.
Kamara for me. I mean, I'd rather go over him than Kenneth Walker.
Yeah. Jamie pointing out, remember when people thought Walker was the RB1 or 2 in Dynasty? They sold every single share at that time. Smart move. Very smart move. Let's talk about these wide receivers. There's 3 of them that get drafted.
Yes. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. I'm going to start off with DK Metcalf here. Last year, he finished as wide receiver 16, bringing in 192.4 fantasy points. He only had 1 top 5 finish. His ADP right now is wide receiver 21. So that's, again, sliding 5 positions back from where he ranked. And then,
Yep.
really? Get out of here. His AAV is $19.
Yeah. So DK Metcalf, I feel like $19 and wide receiver 21. To me, those don't go together. That's your wide receiver 2. $19, I think, seems a little cheap in my opinion. Metcalf is getting older, but he is a physical freak in my opinion. And Jamie pointing out, that he thinks they're going to end up throwing more with Ryan Grubbs. I agree with that. And I think Metcalf is the guy. I'm not worried about JSN, who had some really jump off the tape and impress me. Tyler Lockett's slipping back into the slot. He's not going to take a lot from Metcalf, in my opinion. Let's start with Rod this time. What do you think of DK Metcalf?
Well, and let's take a look back though, right? In 2022, 90 receptions for 1,048 yards. And then last year, 66 receptions. He had more yardage on that one, 11-14 for him in that year. So in a PPR, you're thinking, ouch, because you just lost 30 points of overall production on a guy. Well, not 30, 24. The math's not right, Miranda. But you got more yards on that. So it didn't really, pan out for you very well in a PPR. Now, of course, in a standard league, you're still great because he got 1,100 yards. So at his price, $19 for 1,100 yards, if he can even get you 1,000 yards again, like he did 3 out of the last 4 seasons, then I think that's a fair enough price. But again, how frustrating is it being a manager of either one of these guys, Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf, because both of these guys obviously are the A and B, where Metcalf or Lockett had 1,033 yards in 2022 and had 894. But these guys were always constantly battling with each other for who was going to have the big game, right? So I don't like either one of them because I don't like to choose. Again, I'm a guy who likes to put a lineup together and just not have to worry about it. If I can make it through without the least amount of stress possible, and if I can avoid the headaches, I will. And trying to pick between Metcalf and Lockett, that's a headache I don't want again.
Yeah, fair enough. Nick, what do you think?
I don't know if DK is actually going to be the same DK as we known in the past. I mean, keep in mind, his skin brother, Pete Carroll, if anyone remembers that, when he showed up to the front office, he took his shirt off. He's greeting everyone, and then Pete Carroll, yeah, I'm going to take off my shirt off too, and no one wanted to see that old wrinkly skin from Pete Carroll. I mean, Pete Carroll's not going to be on the sidelines. Not going to be on the sidelines here. And hello. I have a cat that's in my room that wanted to say hello.
I wanted to see that.
Cat apparently wanted to see that, yeah. But joking aside, he's still going to be a beast. I think $19 is actually pretty good value. I remember in past leagues that I've ran, that you've ran, Justin. He's gone more. He's been $20, $25 at least. Yeah. This is a good steal, in my opinion. I don't really like Tyler Lockett, in my opinion. He's just like the long bomber, where it's just like he's like the Marquez Valdez-Scantling of the Seattle Seahawks, my opinion.
Wow.
I would just take the. I've been disappointed by that so many times with Tyler Lockett. I'm like, he's gonna bomb it, he's gonna catch it, and then he doesn't catch it. It's just like, is this what it feels like to be a Seahawks fan? Just disappointed all the time. Gosh.
Disrespectful to compare Lockett to MVS, though. Come on.
Well, one shot wonder. That's, again, my opinion. You can always disagree with me. That's completely fine. I'm going to go with JSN. I'm going to take a stab at him for $1. I mean, he's a young guy, a new offensive as well. Could be getting more targets and everything else this year. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and Metcalf going ahead of Devonta Smith and Malik Neighbors and Zay Flowers. Those are the next 3 guys behind him. I would rather have Metcalf over any of those guys. I don't feel like he's in comparison with them necessarily. I can see the argument for Devonta Smith because he has 2 years ago, he was a top 12 wide receiver with A.J. Brown, but I would still rather have Metcalf. Rod, real quick, would you rather have Lockett or JSN or neither? Because they're both at $1. They're they're going wide receiver 45 for JSN and 55. Yeah, for Lockett, which I find interesting because Lockett has outperformed him. But yeah, is there one of those guys you'd rather have?
At this point, I would probably still take Lockett because at the very least, I know that they're going to try to get Lockett involved. I know JSN, like Nick said, he's a young guy. He's still in the up and comer. But when you got DK and when you got Tyler, either one of those guys like to share. They don't like to share with each other, let alone a third party. So I think Tyler will get his. But again, I'm still staying away from both of them. But if you made me spend $1 on one of them, it'd be Tyler Lockett right now.
Yep, I agree. I mean, obviously, Dynasty, you're going to go for JSN because he's the younger dude, but in other formats, Lockett for sure.
And we kind of agreed before we started this evening that we weren't going to mention Noah Fant.
Yes.
We're not going to cover the Seahawks tight end.
Come on, you guys don't want to talk about 30
He's an Iowa tight end.
14 yards.
Tight end 34, not relevant. He is not relevant.
He's an Iowa tight end, but he's not
He didn't
comparable
make
to
it.
the Iowa tight end.
Yes, he's
Sorry, Nick.
a
Sorry.
little bit disappointing.
You didn't like
Because
it.
he's not George Kittle. That's why.
He's not Sam Laporta.
Yes. Yeah, we're not going to talk about him, but we are going to talk about Underdog. Miranda, you want to tell them about Underdog Fantasy?
Absolutely. The NBA playoffs are here, and our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, wants to make it a lot more interesting. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em game is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and so much more. Make entries of all basketball or mix and match across your favorite sports. You can win up to 100 times your money, and it's a ton of fun. Underdog is available in over 30 states, including California, Texas, and they're even available in Canada.
And new customers can get a pick'em special in the lobby when they sign up. Underdog will also be running a ton of different promos, bonus cash airdrops, specials, giveaways, and more throughout the NBA playoffs. So make sure to follow @UnderdogPicks on Twitter to keep an eye out. And they just launched their champions. That's the player versus player format in Florida. So if you're in Florida, make sure you go pick that up. And sign up with promo code OFFSGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Again, that's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code OFFSGPN, or because Rod's on here, he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's Race SGPN. Support the NASCAR Gambling Podcast and the F1 Gambling Podcast because they are doing awesome stuff.
Stop. Yes, it's definitely Race SGPN, but please.
I thought it was.
Yeah, it is. And look, give your guys the love. This is your show. I'm not here to hijack it. But Race SGPN.
They previewed the Monaco, which is an F1 race. The Monaco Grand Prix, they previewed that. And I remember I've only watched the Monaco Grand Prix once. And so I had to jump onto their pod. This is when we were downstairs dodging tornadoes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
But
when are we not anymore?
well, Iowa is leading the race for the most tornadoes this
81.
year. 81 tornadoes so far. But
Texas
anyways.
is second, and we're about 10 ahead of them.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, the only time I watched the Monaco Grand Prix, it was interrupted when Whiplash went after Tony Stark because Tony Stark decided to race his car that he owned in Iron Man 2. She's like, "Are you kidding me right now?" It's the only time I watched it, but I specifically looked it up after that because I rewatched those. I have them playing while I'm working. They're playing in the background rather than listening to something. In April for my birthday, that's kind of what I do. And this year when I was watching it, because I've been tuning into the NASCAR and F1 Gambling Podcast so much, I was like, is this at a real race? I wonder. So I looked it up. I was like, oh, the Monaco. And then I looked up the date and I tried to remember on the calendar, like I have to talk to them when they're going to be previewing that.
I put him a handicap too, because look at when Tony Stark was in that race, he was probably heavily favored because he's rich and had a fast car. So
yeah, absolutely.
Hate that Whiplash did that to him. Probably cost a lot of people a lot of money that day.
Yeah, I wonder what the odds would have been on the race being interrupted by a villain. I'm sure that would have paid out pretty well.
I'd have put my mortgage on it.
Oh,
speaking of previews, should we preview the Rams?
Let's do this. Let's talk about the Rams. Notice it's not the 49ers.
Not the 49ers yet. We're making them wait.
All right, at quarterback, we still have Matt Stafford.
He's not broken yet.
He is not yet. He did miss 2 games last year, but still finished as QB 15 with 254.1 points. He only had 1 top 5 finish. His ADP right now is QB 20, and his AAV is $1, Bob.
$1, Bob. Now, compared to Geno Smith, Geno was around 12 points a game. Matt Stafford had 16.9. Definitely seems worth more the dollar that you would have to spend, or getting him as the 20th quarterback off the board. I don't remember what order we're at. I think we're starting with Nick this time. Nick, what do you think of Matt Stafford?
Well, he's plays for the Rams. He's a good guy. Overall, I don't hate him as much as Seahawks fans. I'm actually going to go with $1. Stafford, as long as he's not injured.
Yeah.
I mean, he did miss 2 games. As long as he's gonna be great for you. He's gonna be great. I would take him up in a heartbeat. I would put him as my QB1 potentially, depending, if I blow my wad on other players, for auction drafts and everything.
Terminology.
Nick loves blowing his wad.
Yeah, it's a good thing, blowing your wad. Like everyone else has. NFL has all about penetration, and getting behind the block and open gaps and everything else. I have blowing my wad. It's okay. I like it.
It's okay, Nick. It's healthy. Rod, what do you think of Matt Stafford while Miranda chokes over here?
If 4,000 yards is worth $1 to you, then Matthew Stafford is your guy. And I'm saying this because, he had 3,965 yards last year, missed 2 games, easily could have been well over 4,000 in that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is a gigantic misprice on this dollar.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that it's not sexy. I know Matthew Stafford is not the most, perfect person in the ball. However, 4,000 yards is better than any other quarterback in that dollar range that I can pretty much think of. And like Nick said, I mean, he's probably going to slot in as your QB1 most weeks. I know he came in, or he's averaging QB 20 in ADP, but maybe it's because people think he's old. Maybe it's because people think, and he's really not even that old. Like, I'm much older than Matthew Stafford. I don't play the quarterback position, but it's still hard to get out of bed every day. But yeah, I think if $4,000 is worth $1 to you, then I would, definitely snatch up Matthew Stafford at $1. 24 touchdowns is not exactly ideal output for him, but like the yardage is there. So give me Matthew Stafford for $1. I'll take it.
Does seem like he drove them down the field often, and the running back we're about to talk about, Kyron Williams, kind of sniped the touchdown in the red zone. But I mean,
at $1, I feel like that's a no-brainer. You're taking
it's
him.
a no-brainer, and he's got great receivers. When you talk about, we're going to talk about the guys Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, but those are guys that put up big plays. And he's a very smart player. No, he's not going to get you rush yards, which I know everybody likes a quarterback in fantasy football that can get you rushing yards, but he's a solid, consistent guy when he's on the field. As long as he's healthy, Matt Stafford is still performing at a very high level, and he's being drafted, I don't know, behind guys like, well, he's right behind Aaron Rodgers. I would still take Stafford, but that's probably my Aaron Rodgers hate. Just ahead of Baker Mayfield, I might take Baker Mayfield. I don't know. Rod would not. Nope. Rod would not. But I love me some Baker Mayfield. I don't know. The dollar does seem a misprice for that. I am notorious agreeing. No spring chicken, but $1. Why not? Absolutely agree. Let's talk about those running backs. And before you kind of read through the stats for Kyron, breaking news, he's dealing with a foot injury.
Yes.
He's being held out of OTAs. They have not said if it's serious or not, but he is a running back that relies on cutting, on pushing off of those feet to drive. Kind of a big deal if it's one of those injuries. It's going to linger. It's coming out now that they've already talked to Blake Corum about, hey, we need you to get up to speed on pass protection quickly. So to me, that might just be like a backup plan, of course. But to me, I think maybe there's a little concern that this is something that could linger throughout the year. I know I was out on Kyron Williams all year last year.
Which I heavily disagreed with you.
You did disagree with me, but why don't you talk about him?
And here's why I disagreed with you. He missed 5 games last year, but still finished as RB6.
Yeah.
5 games and still came in at RB6.
I remember every week saying he's not going to keep getting 2 touchdowns. He can't maintain that. and he did it a lot of
He
weeks.
maintained it. He finished the season with 239 fantasy points, 6 top 5 finishes. His ADP right now is RB7 and his AAV is 44.
Yeah. Rod, what do you think of Kyron Williams? Let's just say he is healthy. What do you think of Kyron Williams?
So $44 already it makes me say ouch. But at the same time, if you really want a guy, he had those 6 top 5 finishes were probably in those games in which he had over 100 yards, because he had 6 of those games as well last season, right? 3 touchdowns, 87 yards against the Giants, 2 touchdowns against the Colts, 103 yards there. You know, he's definitely good when he's in. You just got to stay in. And he did for the most part. I mean, but the thing about these Rams running backs is one of them, you know, Cam Akers, whether it's Kyron Williams, these guys keep going down. Like, I don't know what it is about them. I don't know if they're made of glass, but they could be made of glass. It's LA out there. I don't know what you do. But, yeah, I mean, it's tough. $44 is a good price for the production that he can have. But again, like Derrick Henry was a guy that I knew. Like, if I paid $68 for Derrick Henry, I knew I would have him the entire season. Like, I knew that every snap he would get the games for me. He'd get everything he needs. Maybe not last year's Derrick Henry, but I can't say the same about Kyron Williams. And I don't feel good paying $44 for that much. The production's great.
Yeah.
Just stay that way.
Yeah.
You know what I do feel good about?
What?
Paying $1 for Blake Corum.
I 100% agree with that. I think Blake Corum's going to see the field more than people think anyways.
He's currently being drafted as RB39.
Yeah. And this is a guy, I mean, he was on the national championship team of Michigan, and I think is a really skilled guy that's going to fit into that offense. So I absolutely like that too. Nick, what do you think about Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, if you want to weigh in on him?
I mean, you look at the $44 for Kyron Williams. I mean, that's kind of average, if not more, that people are actually going to spend money on a running back that is actually the main focal point of the Rams. But if you're going to go for Williams, you got to snag up Corum, because once Williams goes down, Corum's going to come in and he's just going to deliver just excellence, just like Kyron Williams does as well. That would be my 2 cents worth. But as long as Williams is healthy, he's going to do great. And then Corum, he's just going to come in. He's a good handcuff, definitely. For $1, absolutely, please.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with that. $44 for Williams and $1 for Corum. I would spend $45 on the pair, because I would probably spend more than $1 for Corum.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. Jamie has a cool fun fact here. McVay has never had the same running back hit 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons. And it's like Rod said, they can't seem to stay healthy for some reason. So that one for me, I'm going to stick on my against Kyron Williams train. I know he proved me wrong last year, but I'm sticking with it. The foot injury does make me nervous, but he had huge games where he had multiple touchdowns. And yes, he was consistent with that to an extent last year, but I'm still going to stay that he's not going to remain consistent with it throughout this year, I guess. I will take Blake Corum, though. I like Blake Corum. Let's talk about both these wide receivers, because these guys can both change the game for you.
They sure can. We've got Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp finished the season with 134.9 points, coming in as wide receiver 41. He missed 5 games last season. He did have 3 top 5 finishes, though. His average draft position is at wide receiver 20 with an AAV of 16. And then Puka Nacua brought in 246 points, over 100 points more than Cooper Kupp. Finished as wide receiver 4. He had 4 top 5 finishes. His ADP is wide receiver 6, and his AAV is $34 right now.
And I'm just going to say, I'm going to jump ahead of you guys and say I would pay this for either of them. I don't necessarily like getting both of them and having them both on my roster, but if I can get Puka for 34, I'm happy with it. If at the time I don't have the money or he goes higher than that, I'm good to get in Cooper Kupp as well. Rod, what say you on these two guys?
So what kind of bizarro world do we live in that Nacua is $34, Cooper Kupp, the darling of fantasy football a couple of seasons ago, is going at $16? And I get it too, for honest reason, because Cooper Kupp at $16 even feels wrong for him. I know he missed all those games, but you look at the production that when he was in, 4 for 27 against the Giants, 6 for 52 against the Saints. He did have a couple of 100-yard games against the Commanders and the Ravens. Fantastic. But 6 for 39 against the Cleveland Browns, 3 for 18 against the Cardinals, 1 for 11 against the Seahawks, 2 for 48. I don't even want to keep reading because it's making me physically ill. To continue on. Nacua came in and grabbed that team like that. Everybody he grabbed the 1,400 yards that Nacua had was the lifeblood of that Rams passing game. And Cooper Kupp just fell off. I don't know if it was just because of the shiny object in the room grabbed the attention, or the fact that maybe his declining and injury prone. But I don't know. Can he get it back? Yeah, but I don't know how much he can get back. Like, I don't know how much he can get back to that Cooper Kupp that we were relying on a couple of seasons ago, especially now that they have Nacua as an established wide receiver 1 on that roster.
Yeah. Question for you before we move to Nick. Puka Nacua, wide receiver 6 is what he's going at right now. He looked great. He finished wide receiver 4 last year. Do you think he can do better than that? Or is that kind of, he hit his ceiling? And from now on, you kind of have to manage your expectations that he's going to be maybe top 10, but probably not going to push past that wide receiver 4 to 6 range.
Well, ask yourself how sustainable 105 receptions for 1,486 yards is. And the 6 touchdowns could probably stand to go up. But I think 1,400 yards and 105 receptions, that's about the max that anybody can potentially get. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I know there's big seasons, but like he had a big season right out of the gate. So tell me how much more he can do, especially with Cooper Kupp being on the mend and coming back again. You know, like I said, 4 for 26 is not barn burning, but you got to think that Cooper Kupp may come back and take a little more of that production away from him. So, I think wide receiver 6 is about right, and $34 is about right, but you may find yourself frustrated at the end of the year that he's not doing more for you.
Right.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that because he was able to do that with Cooper Kupp being out 5 games of the season.
Yeah.
And not being fully healthy.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense. If Cooper Kupp stays healthy, that's bound to drop a little bit. Nick, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to remind everyone, Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp. Absolutely. I'm going to go take him for $16. I am worried about him. Maybe he is regressing. The last 2 seasons after the Super Bowl, obviously, the Super Bowl, he just if you faced him in fantasy football, 2 or 3 years ago, he was basically just like, well, I'm not going to win against Cooper Kupp, because Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp. But since then, he hasn't actually gotten a whole lot of, he hasn't reached 1,000 yards. He has those moments where he shined. Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp. I hope to see him back to that level this year. Puka, he's going to be absolutely amazing. He's going to be great. I'm absolutely going to go take him for that $34, $35, depending if he's in my budget, because after all, I will probably blow my wad on something else. Just probably would be more on running backs more than anything else here. I'm giving out my analysis, my draft strategy. I usually go after running backs, typically. Usually blow my wad on that. Don't tell Justin and Miranda. Oh, wait, they are here. Never mind. But the other thing is that the wide receivers that are not really mentioned, Tutu Atwood, Demarcus Robinson, those are still valuable options for Matthew Stafford as well. They have a really good wide receiver core group in general. As long as Matt Stafford can stay healthy, this team will be great. Throwing the ball, 100%. Running the ball, 100%. This team is probably, I would say, arguably going to be behind the 49ers, obviously. They're going to be number 2.
Yeah. Bad podcast hosting by us, but we should have looked up, I'm sure the stats are out there, how many times Cooper Kupp was double teamed, or they took the safety coverage over to Cooper Kupp when he was healthy and on the field. And does that change this year, some, because Puka had such a breakout? Maybe now they have to focus more on Puka. So that'll be interesting to see for sure.
I should have looked up his A dot too. That'd have been something.
Right.
And again, we agreed that their tight end, Tyler Higbee, was irrelevant right now.
Now, he did have one top 5 finish.
He did, but it did come in at tight end 25.
Yeah, it was a very heavy bye week that week.
We don't need to really discuss his value. And
we do not.
Shade you guys throw on 495 yards and 2 touchdowns. I don't. His 47 receptions meant a lot to him.
Just doesn't fit the rhythm of the guys we're going for. But speaking of rhythm, if you're betting on NBA player props, you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm gives you a menu of the best player props for every single NBA playoff game, making it easy to go through and find the best props to put your money on in seconds. Rhythm's predictions are backed by over 3 years of data and a team of data scientists and quants that focus on fine-tuning our algorithm to give you the best shot at winning. Bunch of nerds, but they help you out. Rhythm pairs its predictions with player prop graphs to help you feel even more confident in your picks, which you can make wherever you normally place your bets or DFS picks even. From superstars to bench players, Rhythm finds the best player prop lines, all backed by AI data, without you needing to endlessly scroll through a sports book. Rhythm also allows you to create your own custom NBA models, so you can get AI-backed money line spread and total picks for every playoff game. Start a free 7-day trial and start winning your NBA player props with Rhythm, available wherever you get your apps. And just to clarify, they are nerds, but they do spell rhythm a little bit differently. RITHMM. Miranda, should we talk about the Cardinals?
The Cardinals.
Yeah, let's
saving the 49ers for last.
Make them wait.
Yes. All right. At quarterback, we've got Kyler Murray. Last year, he came in at QB 26. He missed the first 9 weeks, though.
Yeah.
He brought in only 151.4 points. He did have one top 5 finish for the weeks he did play. His ADP right now is QB 10 with an AAV of $9.
I'm sure we said it at some point, but if you don't know, because ADP is the more common term
I was saying
of average draft
position and average auction
Okay,
value
I was going to say, but AAV
at the
is average
beginning.
auction.
Then I started abbreviating.
Okay.
I can go back to full.
Fair enough.
If you want me to, Justin.
When he was healthy, he did get 18.9 points per game, but he's going ahead of guys like Tua Tagovailoa, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, and Brock Purdy. Nick, what do you think of Kyler Murray? Are you drafting him as the 10th quarterback off the board? Are you spending the $9? How do you feel about? I know you're very offended to just find out about him being drafted ahead of Brock Purdy. I saw your face. Sorry about that. But what do you think about Kyler Murray?
Well, it kind of depends. Am I going to spend $9 on Kyler Murray? No. I don't know what kind of Kyler Murray I'm going to get. Am I going to get the one that's actually focused on football or worried about his ranking in Call of Duty? I'm going to say that again every single time. And I've said it to you during the draft when we were watching the draft together. I don't know what kind of Kyler Murray we're going to get. Are we going to get the one that's focused on football, helping out the team, or the one that's going to be worried about his draft in Call of Duty?
Well, here's a question for you, Nick. Is there another Call of Duty that's going to be released this season?
I don't know. I'm not.
Because I mean,
is there a tournament? There could be a tournament going on. You know,
we'll ask the guys at Rhythm.
He trends down though when Call of Duty is released in the season. He performs poorly.
He's definitely kind of a polarizing player. I feel like there are times when he's on the field and he looks really good. And there are times that he's on the field and when Caleb Williams was his pro comparison was Kyler Murray, I'm like, please don't say that. I don't want a Kyler Murray on my team. Rod, how do you feel about Kyler Murray?
I'm sorry, did you say calamari? I'd spend $9. I would not spend $9 on Kyler Murray. He only had 2 games with more than a touchdown. And even then, only one of those was 2 touchdowns. Never had a 300-yard game. I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, I understand that, yeah, he can rush, but I don't want him to rush. I want him to throw for 300 yards. I want him to throw for more than 1 touchdown in a game and be relevant. That's what I want out of a quarterback. I don't even want that out of my bench quarterback. So, yeah, like I said, I'll pay $9 for calamari, but not $9 for Kyler.
Love it. And yeah, if you have not paid attention to watching Kyler Murray run, do yourself a favor and YouTube it because he looks like a toddler. It really cracks me up when he's running. He looks like a toddler running from their parents. Let's talk about their run game. He does.
Where's your video? You're always bringing videos to this.
I know. I failed.
You failed again. No, just kidding. Just kidding. All right.
I wanted the video of Rod laying on the spike, but I forgot to get that too.
Oh my God. That was my back still hurts from that day, by the way.
All right. At running back, we've got James Conner. Last year, he was RB18. He missed 4 games, though, brought in 188 points. He had 3 top 5 finishes. His ADP is RB23, and his AAV is $25.
Ooh, that seems high.
It does seem high for that, doesn't it?
It does. I don't know why, but that just feels high. I mean, we think about running back 23 value to ADP, $25 seems high. But let's ask the experts here. Rod, what do you think about James Conner?
Experts, you say? That's way too kind of you. Look, for James Conner, it's crazy because he's a 1,000-yard rusher last season, right? 1,040-yard rusher, 7 touchdowns. Not really. I mean, 7 touchdowns doesn't feel right, especially when he had 15 a few seasons ago in his 752-yard season. So, but James Conner for me is almost like he's a hard guy to peg because he can get you 27 yards for 150 or 27 carries for 150 yards one week, and then he can get you 6 carries for 27 yards another week, or 12 for 45, right? He had like great games down the stretch. 3 of his last 5 were over 100 yards and at least a touchdown in 4 of those. So down the stretch, he was phenomenal. But there were points there in the middle of the season where to get you to those playoff games, he was letting you down, right? So you didn't know where you were going with James Conner. And so late James Conner, maybe he's somebody you target late in the season, right? As a trade just before the trade deadline. Just when he's having those 14 for 62-yard games, 6 for 27-yard games. And then you get him just before that Steelers game where he went off for 25 carries for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the kind of thing that you do with James Conner, right? I don't think you draft him right out of the gate. I think you wait for him to have a couple of bad weeks, try to scoop him up on a trade, and then get him for much cheaper than what you're trying to pay for him, $25 in this instance.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. He's going behind guys like Ramondre Stevenson, David Montgomery, and DeAndre Swift. I think I would take Conner over at least DeAndre Swift. I know I'm a Bears fan, but I'd still take him over him.
Mm-hmm.
I might take him over Stevenson too, because I think that Patriots team is going to be a mess where they could just key in on Stevenson. But yeah,
Look at you not missing a jab at the Patriots.
Oh, sorry, Cody Zeeb. Man.
Justin, were you part of the roast? I thought I saw you there.
Man, he did say he doesn't know why he listens to this show, and almost every show we say, sorry, Cody. You know what? That's what happens when your team
talking about
has been so good for
the
so
NFC
long.
West, and you still managed to get a jab at the Patriots.
Good man.
Sorry, Cody. Nick, what do you think about James Conner and Cody? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, let's not. We're gonna this show is gonna go for a really long time. We're gonna go talk about Cody. My goodness. James Conner. I mean, he's a good viable option. Do I think $25 is worth the money? Not really. I would go under. But again, at least in my drafts, at least in the auction drafts, you get a lot of people that want to have, spend their wad on running backs. I mean, you're going to have those people that are going to want to bid him up because he's known for just getting into the red zone. That's what he's basically known for. Yeah, all of his games that he had, those 100 rushing yards, were just the last 3 games, and maybe one more before that. But I think a lot of it was also just a lot of the other teams weren't really focused on that, or just out of the playoffs. And like, whatever, we'll just let him just run for it, But he's still a viable option. I would still draft him for sure. $25, probably not.
Yeah. Let's answer a question in the chat real quick. Jamie asking, would you rather have Corum with Kyron hurt or Benson with Connor hurt, both the rookies? So Rod, we'll start with you.
I'd probably rather have Corum, only because I know that Corum is going. We talked about the Rams running backs already. When they're healthy, or the healthy one seems to have the big games, and then obviously they'll get hurt, and then another healthy one will step up and take their place. So I would rather have that. Cardinals offense does not make me excited at all, like not even in the least. So I'd rather lose and not have them than win and have them. It feel better for me.
Nick, how about you? Corum or Benson?
Yeah, I'm going with Quorum as well. Yeah, Cardinals, doesn't really sound excitement for me at all. It's just they're going to be below on the totem pole. Actually, you know what? They're going to be third because Seahawks are going to be dead last because, well, it's the Seahawks, and I hate them. I'm sorry. Hate is a strong word. I dislike them the most. How about that?
There you go. And I already mentioned I'm a Blake Corum fan, so I would go with him as well.
Same.
All right.
I'm 100% there.
For the receivers, if you guys want to talk about Michael Wilson, we can. He does not excite me, but why don't we talk about your favorite rookie wide receiver,
Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, let's talk about him. He is currently at an ADP of 10 for wide receiver and an AAV of $19.
I'm going to start this one in saying that I know he's a generational talent, but drafting a wide receiver at 10 that we have not seen take the field scares me.
It's very scary.
That's ahead of Chris Olave, who I really like no matter who's throwing to him. That's ahead of Michael Pittman Jr., who is very talented. DJ Moore, who's very talented. Drake London, maybe we'll see him take a step forward with Kirk Cousins throwing to him. It's 5 spots ahead of Deebo Samuel. For a guy that we haven't seen hit the field yet, we don't know what Kyler we're getting. That just seems high for me.
But he is going to be wide receiver 1.
He will be their wide receiver 1. He's going to be the guy. $19. I feel much more comfortable spending $19 on him than I do drafting him as the 10th wide receiver off the board. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
But
very different.
To me, the wide receiver 10 off the board should bring in more than $19. That's just my opinion. We'll start with, I don't remember. So we'll start with Rod.
I love it. I think our Nick Fortune drinking game has made us completely blind at this point.
I don't even know if Nick noticed we were doing it.
Whoa! There's a Nick Fortune drinking game, and I'm not involved.
Never you mind, buddy. We're good.
Never mind, Nick.
Let's talk about Marvin Harrison. Are we kidding? Are we? Do we really think that maybe Marvin Harrison is going to be the next Puka Nacua? Like, I mean, is this what we're banking us on? I understand. I understand the new shiny object. We love to get super fixated on these guys that we really have these high hopes for. But he's going to the Cardinals. He's going to play football with Kyler Murray. If I'm not even paying $9 for Kyler Murray, and I'd rather spend it on calamari, why would I want his receiver for $19? Like,
you wouldn't spend 19 on him.
No, that's gas station sushi. I'd rather wait
in California.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like on a whole taking this much of a chance on a rookie. You talked about Justin, all the guys that are around him. Mike Evans is out there, right? DJ Moore is out there. Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, all of these guys who have produced over the course of their career, not just a guy who's coming in from college that looks good and should look good, but it's going to a receiving core that needs help. And if he's their help, then help. And I'm not there for that. So give me anybody else. If I lose and Harrison's not on my team, I'll just continue to keep drinking this and be happy for the rest of my life.
Nick, what do you think about Marvinson?
Oh, Marvin Harrison. I thought he was going to go to the Bears, but he didn't go to the Bears. Sadly. I'm not spending the $19. I'd rather spend $19 on James Conner rather than Marvin Harrison. We don't know what kind of person we're going to get for Kyler Murray as well. Yeah, he was in the top 10, for the NFL draft, but he went to the Cardinals. The Cardinals. What? No. But I can honestly just see him like being overbought or like because he's going to have one good preseason game and then all of a sudden the mock drafts are going to come out and he's like way up there, $30, $40. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with people? But again, that's sometimes, when we get into these bidding wars, which, with me and my brother, or you and I, Justin, we just overspend, on sometimes, or, you just want me just to blow my wad, But again, I'm not really going with Marvin Harrison Jr. If it was like $5 or $6, absolutely I would. But again, you don't know much about what Kyler Murray is going to be. And same thing with, just this team. in general, I'm not that excited.
Yeah, I could see in some of our drafts Marvin Harrison because of the hype going. Now I know it's a keeper league, but still I could see him going for much higher than $19. And then at that point for me, it's like you guys can
See,
have
the
him.
thing for
If
me
he's gonna
too is I'm not in many. Am I in any auction? Just our listener league.
That's the only redraft.
That's
auction
the only
league,
redraft auction. So all of my auction leagues, they're dynasty, they're keeper leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So I would want to get him at the best value, but I would.
Now this is the AAV of a redraft league, not a dynasty. He is
This
higher
is
than
the.
that. Yeah.
Oh,
So what I would do is I would sit back and I would throw in a bid every once in a while. If it started to lull, like I'd throw in another $5 just to see somebody else try to bid him up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'd be the guy that was just like, all right, fine, waste a third or 2/3 of your budget on this guy. I'll just continue to, 32. 38. And then have this go, oh no, I want him 40. And then but by the time you know it, you're checking out at $55. And I'm like, cool, now I'll grab everybody else that you wanted on your list while you're trying to scrap down for the dollar menus.
Absolutely.
I do have one question. Just Marina, are you guys going to be co-owners of a league in your
we're not
team in
doing
the
that
league?
again. I don't
You guys
know.
are not doing that? Okay.
That
I was gonna say, given how it happened last year when you were so gung-ho about we're getting Travis Kelce, we're getting Patrick Mahomes, he could have been your guy if you guys did that again. That could be your wide receiver number 1, just saying.
There you go. Yeah, we spent way too much on those Chiefs players. The only guy
you guys didn't have a strategy. That's what happened.
We didn't plan a strategy together, which was a horrible idea. We both went in thinking we were going to be stubborn and do what we both wanted, and we know that what we both want is not the same thing when it comes to fantasy football.
Let's talk about the only guy really that I feel like he's going to have to compete with targets with anyways, and I think this guy's going to get more targets.
Trey McBride. Last year, he came in at tight end 9 with 141 points, 5 top 5 finishes. His ADP is tight end 3 with an AAV of $25.
Ooh. Ouch. Nick, what do you think about Trey McBride?
Ooh, that's too much money for a tight end, that's for sure. I don't think I'd spend $25 for Trey McBride. I think he'd be my second option. I'd rather spend $25 on getting Puka Nacua rather than Cooper Kupp, because Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp. I'm not spending $25 for Trey McBride. I would definitely look for getting Trey McBride, but not at that dollar amount.
Yeah, and just to hurt Nick's feelings, he is getting drafted 4 places ahead of George Kittle. 4 places. Rod, what do you think about Trey McBride?
So we poo-pooed 400 and some odd yards, right? But Trey McBride had 825 yards, 81 receptions as a tight end. Now, the only thing that really lagged was the touchdowns. But for tight ends, 81 receptions for 825 yards is actually wide receiver 3 numbers in some cases, if not wide receiver 2 numbers, right? So the only thing that really lacked in this was the touchdown passes. So for me, like, again, I don't even know who's really offering up Trey McBride. Let's put it this way, in an auction. Like, I don't know that that's one of the names that somebody's like anxious to bring up. This might be one later in the draft when people realize, oh shit, I never said Trey McBride, and everybody's already spent all their money on chasing Marvinson, and you're, $67 in the hole because you went after him instead. This is a guy that I think you could probably wait until way later in the draft to bring up, and then you may be able to get him for $15, $16 instead of $25. So be crafty. Wait on McBride to bring him up. Don't be the one to bring him up. And if somebody does bring him up, then don't worry about bidding on him. But I would say if you can get him about $16, $17, that's where I go, because that's the more comfortable number for him.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I am a big Trey McBride fan. I think he's a valuable fantasy asset, but I also think $25 is a lot of money to spend on him.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Jordan joining FBI Tugboat. What's going on, man?
Hello.
And we got guests this week. We do. Since you're just joining us, Rod Villagomez, Nick Fortune. If you're a NASCAR F1 fan, check out Rod's stuff. If you're a soccer fan, Nick might have some stuff coming out for you. I think he's kicking the idea around still, but
I'm just kicking the can down the road,
Better the can than the bucket. Why don't we've made them wait long
We
enough.
have.
And we've taken a lot of their time.
In my opinion, we've saved the best for last here with the 49ers.
I was going to say, we're not talking about the Bears tonight.
In the NFC West. We'll put that out there.
Sorry. Bears, ew.
At quarterback, we've got Brock Purdy.
I'm going to interrupt you real
You're
quick.
going to interrupt
Yeah,
me.
sorry.
I am.
I was looking through our show notes of last year.
I hate when that fight.
On this, yeah, right. On this division. And at that time, we had no idea who was going to be quarterback for the 49ers because of Purdy's injury. Trey Lance was still on the team. Sam Darnold was there. We had no idea. We had people at the Fantasy Football Expo.
I told you, though. What did I tell you?
You said Purdy was fine. He was going to play.
Yeah.
We had people at the Expo say that Sam Darnold was going to be the top NFC West quarterback because they didn't think we also had somebody say that Kyle Shanahan was going to enter the NFC Championship game and win it for them. But but anyways, now you may continue on. Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy last year finished as QB6 with 306.6 points. He had 3 top 5 finishes. His ADP is QB11, which is that's a drop.
Yeah.
And his AAV is $6.
And before these guys say it, because I know they're biased, that feels disrespectful.
A little bit.
For the guy that finished QB6 and you're only going to spend $6 on him, that feels disrespectful to me. I know that, he's not this ultimate running quarterback and they think, oh, he's just a system quarterback. But Brock Purdy consistently put up good numbers. He was scoring almost 20 a game. I don't get why he's only at $6. Rod, what do you think about Brock Purdy? I'm sure you're drafting him.
Kyler Murray is $9. Make it make sense.
Exactly.
Make it make sense. Brock Purdy, the guy who took his team to the Super Bowl last year, not playing Tecmo Super Bowl on his Xbox, literally taking his team to the Super Bowl, and he's $6. I know everybody wants Brock Purdy to fail. I honestly know they want him to fail because they hate the fact that he's been succeeding with this team. Is he the most prolific passer in the NFL? No. Does he have to be? No. Is he a good fantasy quarterback? Yes. He's actually a really 2 touchdowns from a guy. We're paying $9 for a guy who barely threw more than 2 touchdowns in a season. Brock Purdy threw more than 2 touchdowns in almost every game he appeared in. Like I just make it make sense. And like Kathy's saying, I'll definitely take Purdy for $6 all day long. I'd pay $9 for Brock Purdy if I had to. I know you guys know that I love him, so you'd bid him up for me, but I'd still pay up to about $12 or $13 for Brock Purdy because at least I know that if he stays healthy all season, like it's with any player, I know that I'm going to consistently get great production out of him week in and week out. I don't have to worry about him getting, just sidelined by any other video game that takes his attention away. But yeah, I just give me Brock Purdy for $6. If you give him to me there, I'll take him.
Yeah, and she said $6 all day and night. If night means something different, if that was a double meaning, he is a good looking dude. So I get it. Nick, what do you think about
are you
Purdy?
blowing your load on Brock Purdy?
It's his wad.
I'm out, guys. I'm out of drink. I can't do this anymore. You guys, this is empty. There's no more.
So thinking about the $6 for the night with Brock Purdy.
Well, Miranda, I'd like to point out that it's Brock Hard Purdy. First of all, he is worth the $6. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Fun fact, every time that Brock Purdy scores a touchdown, I have to send a Snapchat out to my brother by saying to who it is, like if it's Deebo Samuel or something like that, I'll have to say something like, touchdown, Deebo Samuel from Brock Purdy. That was a pretty good decision by Brock Purdy. And the funny thing is that every time that Brock Purdy scores a touchdown, I have to tell my wife, see, it's funny because his last name is Purdy. And she goes, oh, yeah. No, I got it. Yeah. After like 2 seasons, she already hates it. But you know what? I have converted her to a 49er fan. She has just conformed to the 49er way. Absolutely, I'm going to take him for $6 here. Yes, I'm biased. Absolutely. Would you bid me up? Absolutely. Would I spend $9 instead of Kyler Murray? Absolutely, I would.
Would you spend more than $9?
I would spend probably $20 on Brock Purdy. Maybe.
Note to self, bid Nick
Bid
up to
portion
$20.
up.
Well, let's talk about a guy that's not a great value. I mean, he's a great
Oh.
player.
Yes, but this is painful. If you
Yeah.
are going after him in your fantasy league, you have to budget.
Yeah.
And you have to plan accordingly. Christian McCaffrey was RB1 last year with 357.8 points, which is 102 more points than the RB2.
Which is insane.
102 points more
That's
than the next
that's
in
a
line.
huge advantage. In
Yes,
fantasy
he
football.
had 9 top 5 finishes. His ADP is RB1. His average auction value, and this is where it stings and it hurts, at $81.
Yeah, that is a lot of money. I mean, 100 more points in RB2 is a huge advantage. But like you said, if you plan on spending that, if that's how high it goes for you, really do have to budget. Nick, are you drafting Christian McCaffrey at $81?
No, I'm not going to draft him for $81 here, but I definitely would be blowing my wad on Christian McCaffrey for sure for the auction purpose for fantasy football, okay? Let me just remind you. Oh, I figured it out. I just figured out the game here. My gosh. I love the game. Listen, as long as the guy stays healthy, he's just amazing. Absolutely just amazing. I mean, every single year I always dread. I'm like, is he going to be injured? Is he going to be injured? Hasn't been injured really a whole lot.
Right.
Yeah, he's got some soreness and everything else, but I mean, this is the guy that people will be blowing their wad.
There's nothing left.
Well, that's too bad then. That everyone will be using a lot of their fantasy football money on Christian McCaffrey. Enough said. I'm spending the money on him, but not $81. No.
Yeah, if you're listening to us on a podcast, go on over to YouTube, because every time Nick has said blow your wad, Rod started drinking and I caught on, so then I started drinking every time. And it's been a fun game throughout the podcast. To just Rod and I almost, even though our cameras are different angles, we almost lock eyes like, yep, there's another. Rod, I mean, obviously, I think if you're sitting at the first draft position, you got to really consider taking Christian McCaffrey. But how about for $81? How's that make you feel?
Yeah, in a redraft, if you have the first pick in the draft, that's a no-brainer. Christian McCaffrey, because we didn't even, you talked about what his running back numbers was, but we didn't even talk about what his receiving, like what he finished in as far as receiving is concerned, because he probably finished somewhere in the top 15 of receiver stats, given what he did last year as well, right? And so that's the value he has there. What I would say, if you're doing an auction and you have the first selection, if you're able to offer the first name, this is the guy you bring up, because then you get everybody to empty their wallets right off of the bat. Because if people are spending if one person is spending $81 on Christian McCaffrey, I guarantee you who's finishing last in that league. He is fantastic, but it is very difficult to build a team. I had Christian McCaffrey on several of my fantasy teams last year. Only one of them finished in the playoffs that year because, it wasn't an auction, but even still, like, it's hard to build a team around a Christian McCaffrey if you're spending $81 on him. Like, 81, this is people right now not feeling the actual, they're out here mocking, and they're like, okay, $81, I'll do that. Come auction day, how many people are you going to spend $81 for Christian McCaffrey?
He did go for 74 in our league last year, which is crazy.
I spent a lot on him in a league. I can't remember which one it was, but you have to think that 102 points divided out, like extra, it is a lot though.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And some weeks it's like
but at what cost?
I know, but you still can do it.
Yeah.
I am somebody, I spend my money and then I will have like 7 $1 players or more on my that I'm getting on the bench.
Makes
and
sense.
I do good. I do fine. Just fine.
She does just fine. Let's talk about all three of these wide receivers in one shot so we can get these guys out of here
One
soon.
shot here. Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, the rookie, who I'm curious to hear your guys' take on him.
All right. So we got Debo Samuel. He finished as wide receiver 12. He did miss 2 games. I'm just going to keep this short and sweet for you guys. His ADP is wide receiver 16 with an AAV of $22. Brandon Ayuk finished as wide receiver 14. His ADP is wide receiver 18 with an AAV of $19. And then Ricky's AAV is $1.
$1, Bob. Rod, which of these wide receivers are you going after? Which are you staying away from? What do you think about Ricky? Does he kind of take away from some of the other two or not affect them?
I feel like $1 may be worth it to stab at the end of the draft if like nobody else is bringing him up and like everybody spent $81 on Christian McCaffrey and you guys are searching, or you're the person that spent $81 on Christian McCaffrey and you need somebody else. That's $1. Obviously, any 49er wide receiver weapon has got value, right? It's you never know who Brock Purdy is going to throw to. It could be Kittle, it could be Ayuk, it could be Samuel, it could be McCaffrey. It could be Shanahan himself if he's on the sidelines at the right time. So I think either of those guys have value. As far as Ayuk and Samuel, I mean, Ayuk obviously is the clear number one when it comes to wide receiver in this now. The baton has been passed to Ayuk, whereas Debo is going to be a threat no matter what. And maybe this is a good thing for Debo that Ayuk has sort of established himself as that guy, because now Debo can just be Debo, right? Debo doesn't have to be Debo wide receiver 1. He could just be Debo Samuel, whether that's running the ball, whether that's catching the ball on a slant and taking it out. Again, there's a lot of versatility for Debo Samuel. And with Brandon Ayuk becoming the wide receiver 1, well, now Debo Samuel can just be Debo, and that's good. So I'll still take Ayuk because I know Ayuk and Purdy have established a connection over the last couple of seasons, and that's something that Debo and him haven't quite figured out yet. They'll get there, but Ayuk for sure has Purdy's attention, so I'll take him, especially at that discounted price of $19.
Yeah, and you brought up Pearsall for $1. I like that stash. We had Sebastian, the DGen doc, on. I don't remember. I think that was last month, talking about the rookies, and he's a big fan of him, and brought up the point, like Debo has an injury history. So if Debo goes down, then all of a sudden you've got the wide receiver 2 on an offense that moves the ball well. So something to think about. Nick, what do you think about these three guys?
I would just rank them. Brandon Ayuk, clear number 1. Again, I'm going to agree with Rod. Debo, injury history. Debo also likes to run his mouth too. Debo really gets in trouble with that, and for me, I just don't really like that. I mean, I clearly think that's the reason why the Browns won against us when we went to the Browns. Ricky, I mean, kind of a rookie guy here. I would definitely stash him for $1 when Debo gets injured, because kind of knows that he's going to get injured as well. I mean, again, I feel like a little bit disrespect too for Brandon Ayuk. I mean, $19 against Debo Samuel, $22. Really? Come on. I'd rather just spend more money on Brandon Ayuk. I am concerned about Ayuk's in his contract status. I think a lot of it is just more people around him and not really Ayuk himself. That's what I think. But I think they're going to get a contract done. He's going to play. He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid because he does deserve it. Absolutely. That's my 2 cents on the wide receiver core.
It's becoming more and more common in football that you hear this person's camp is saying this or that because their dad is saying things in Caleb Williams situations. Their best friend is saying things to reporters. Their agent is saying things. They got all these people around them that think they're kind of their agent hanging around with them that are saying things. So you keep hearing, like, we're hearing from this person's camp. So, Nick, you might have a good point there that it might not be Ayuk at all. Obviously, he wants to get paid for what he has performed and the high level he's performed, but he may not be the one that's really bitching about it. Let's finish with the tight end.
Yes, George Kittle. He finished as tight end 5 last year with 170.7 points. He had 7 top 5 finishes. His ADP right now is tight end 7, and his AAV is $22. What do you guys think about this?
Nick, we'll start with you. You got the George Kittle shirt on.
Oh yeah, I mean, because he's tight end university, tight end university right here. I would not pay George Kittle for $22 in my opinion. I kind of avoid George Kittle. He's kind of like the stock market, Stock market likes to go up and he likes to go down, up and down, up and down. That's what George Kittle is. He's up because he may perform, but he could just be the tight end that just loves to block. I mean, he's known for being a great blocker along with Juszczyk as well. Just deliver that clear run that Christian McCaffrey is going to go in for 15 or 20 yards here. I wouldn't pay $22 myself. He is a good tight end, but you just don't know what Kittle you're going to get. Are you going to get a Kittle that's going to, get that touchdown in the end zone? He is a touchdown red zone threat because Brock Purdy does love getting George Kittle in the red zone, but you just don't know about him just overall. Like, is he going to deliver again, as if for other tight ends?
Rod, how about you?
So, I mean, a lot to Nick's point, too. A couple of seasons ago in 2022, he had 11 touchdowns. Last year, he only had 6 touchdowns. And for George Kittle, you're absolutely right, Nick. It's kind of like an up and down thing. He'll get you 3 for 29 in one game, like he did against the Commanders, and then 7 catches for 126 yards against the Ravens. But before that, 2 for 54 against the Cardinals, 3. So you talk about the volume of catches that he's been getting lately. If 3 to 4 is his ceiling, you're hoping that those go for at least 9 to 10 yards so that the yardage can get there too. And he only had 6 touchdowns, so it wasn't as if you could rely on touchdowns for George Kittle like you'd been able to. And he definitely is happy doing whatever. Like, he doesn't have to catch the ball. That's the one thing about George Kittle that I absolutely love about him, and especially being on this team, is that as selfless as he is, that rubs off on everybody else on that field. You see that it doesn't matter if they're involved in the play or not. They're going to continue to be happy for the teammates that are, which is kind of starts with George Kittle and ends there. So for him, the stats, I don't even think they matter. Honestly, I don't think he even looks at the stats or the scoreboard or anything like that. He just wants to go out and play football, right? So that does lead to good games, and that does lead to some games that aren't necessarily all that good on the stat sheet, but they still win, and he still played a part in it because he, sprung the block, or he was involved on the key play in another way, right? Maybe he was a decoy on that play or whatever. It doesn't matter to George as long as they win. So $22 is pretty pricey for that. Even though he did have 1,000 yards last year, right? That's you're paying for that, and you're hoping for that, but it doesn't always materialize that way for you. So I don't know. Me, I'd probably still pay $22 for George Kittle because I'm a glutton for punishment when it comes to him.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, willing to do the block, the dirty work, selfless player. He's fun to watch. Such high energy, a lot of fun to watch. Jamie saying Kittle's smile should earn us fantasy points. Absolutely agree.
Anytime he looks at the camera, that should be fantasy points.
Right. He also asked, what do you think about speedy rookie Jacob Cowing for the future? I like his ability. I think Kyle Shanahan's going to scheme up some neat plays for him. I just don't know if it's going to have fantasy sustainability necessarily. Do you guys agree with that, or are you targeting him? I mean, if it's like a 14 to 16 team league, then I would say go ahead and stash him just in case. But what do you guys think?
It's McCaffrey show. It's so hard to break in. It really is. It doesn't matter who's behind him. Like, you may get 1 or 2. Elijah Mitchell knows that all too well. All those guys behind him. Mason knows that all too well. It's McCaffrey's show. He doesn't like coming off the field. So anybody you're stashing in case McCaffrey gets hurt. Yeah.
All right. We got just a couple more things to ask you guys before we get you out of here. And first, we're just going to kind of, I guess, let's just do top value. Top value for quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end in this division. Let's just go all of them at the same time. Why not? Rod, we'll start with you.
I think the best value is Brock Purdy at the price that he's going at right now. I mean, you want to talk about $6? $6? Spend $6 on Airheads at the store. Like, of course I'm going to spend $6 on the quarterback that's probably going to carry you through most of the season. So, I mean, that's not even being a 49er homer. That's just being a realist.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. How about running back and wide receiver and tight end? For tight end, we didn't really, I guess, discuss values. So let's just stick with the running back and wide receiver. Do you like any of those guys on the cheaper end?
I mean, honestly, James Conner is probably the only one that I remotely like, but $25 is still too much for that. So I actually, honestly, if you can't get Christian McCaffrey, I'm okay not taking any of these running backs out here.
Yeah. Nick, how about you?
I'm going to go with the, obviously I'm pretty biased on Brock Purdy, but I'm going to throw out another name. I'm going to say Matt Stafford. As long as he stay healthy, he's going to do great. I mean, for $1? $1? Come on. Give him the respect that he deserves here. $9 for Kyler Murray. Come on now. Calamari for me. Again, I'll agree with Rod. I'll take a dish of calamari rather than Kyler Murray. I don't know what kind of calamari we're going to get. Call of Duty, Kyler Murray, or I want to be in football, Kyler Murray. Running back for me, if I can't get Christian McCaffrey at a decent value, and I'm saying, in the $60 range, I'm actually going to stash. I'm going to try and snag. Going to be a jerk to someone, and I'd probably take Blake Corum. I would take him $1, and they're already predicting that because running backs for the Rams really go down. They really have a lot of injury history. Sorry, I'm going to go with Blake Corum. Again, $1, absolutely. It's a rookie. That's going to be one of those picks that I would definitely keep. In the later part once I have established my front for my people I'm actually going to spend money on.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Did you want me to do wide receivers too?
Yeah, who you got for wide receivers?
Oh, wide receivers. Brandon Ayuk would be the guy, obviously. There's just I like the guy. He's got good chemistry with Brock Purdy as well. I'm going to spend money on Puka Nacua, and I'm going to go with DK Metcalf.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that just going back to your guys' Brock Purdy point, it's crazy to me that you can get Brock Purdy and Matt Stafford for cheaper than Kyle Murray. You could get them both and have them both on your team. Right.
Like, it's mind blowing.
And those are the moves you have to make if you spend $81 on Christian McCaffrey, really.
Which wouldn't be too bad if you spend $81 on McCaffrey and you got Brock Purdy and Matt Stafford.
And another guy, if you want to just keep drafting players in this division, Tyler Lockett for $1. I know he's a little bit older. I know he has this back and forth with DK and JSN is there, but they're moving him back to the slot, which is where he technically has excelled more in fantasy value. He's going to be catching a lot of passes. So if it's PPR, half PPR, and at $1, I think he's going to bring you a lot of value. Last thing before we get you guys out of here, we're adding a little. Sorry, did you put your? I thought you were like, hold up, I had something to say. We're adding a little new segment to the show. It's normally going to be at the end after the whiskey. So after the whiskey's done, make sure you stick around. But since we have guests right now, we're going to get to it now, and that's a best bets section. So in this division, we'll start with Rod. You can do one or two, however many you want to do. Not 10, please. What's a best bet or some best bets you have for this division specifically?
All right. So my top 10 bets in this division.
I'm writing them down right now for you.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much. No, look, so we're talking Brock Purdy, right? And I'm looking at his passing yards, and I see them right now. What am I looking at? DraftKings. And they are offering Brock Purdy at 3,900 and a half passing yards. It kind of makes me a little bit leery to want to try to take the over on this one, even though he had 4,200 yards last year. But like Christian McCaffrey is so deadly on the ground. What if he doesn't get hurt? What if he, is on the field a few more times? But look, then I say to myself, you're pretty much an idiot, Rod. Take the over on this one because 4,200 yards is a lot of yards, and he still has Brandon, and he still has Debo, and now he's got the new guy, and Christian McCaffrey still catches passes, and Christian McCaffrey alone can break one for 4,000 yards. So on one reception. So I think if we're gonna go off of what Brock Purdy's capable of, I think at least 3,900 passing yards is good, and this one's only juiced at -110. So I'll take Brock Purdy's passing yards over 3,900 and a half.
And with that comment, I can tell that Nick said blow your wad way too many times because Rod had to drink too many times. Nick, what do you have for best bet?
So I did, I shared it with you, Justin. I did the underdog fantasy. So I did a couple, but I'm just going to go just for the NFC ones. Actually, to make it to the playoffs, I'm going to say the LA Rams. That was +115. Good money. Good value, I'm actually going to say Marvin Harrison Jr. under his total wide receiving yards over 1,000 yards for him. No, lower, please. And then also Christian McCaffrey over 5.5 receiving touchdowns. Are you kidding me? That seems a little disrespectful for Christian McCaffrey. Come on, take that over. And then I'm actually going to say I'm going to play a little risky. I'm going to say Matthew Stafford's going to have that injury history because he has under 4,000 receiving passing yards. Under.
Yeah, that makes sense. Miranda, do you have any you'd like to add?
I do. I have NFC #1 seed as the 49ers. It's 3-1 odds plus 300. They were the number one NFC team last year. And really, if you look at this team, not much has changed. They've only gotten better. Health is always, going to be an issue for the 49ers. So if everybody's healthy, I see no reason that they wouldn't be the number one seed again.
Yeah, I like that one, especially at 3-1, because their division price, they're favored more. So I think getting the 3-1 at the number one seed is better value there. I'm going to throw one out too. I'm going to say, this is a little crazy here, but bear with me here. Most regular receiving yards, Puka Nacua. It's 14-1. I know I almost made the case that has he already reached his ceiling, but electric rookie year, he's a go-to target for Matt Stafford. Even in just the rookie year, they built that chemistry quickly, and I think he still has that chemistry with him. Now, if you look at the other top options right now, obviously there are guys that will pop off, but there's Tyreek Hill, who I think kind of rides on Tua's health. There's CeeDee Lamb, who, in my opinion, he's really the only receiving option for Dallas, so I think he's going to get covered a lot. Jamar Chase, who's returning from injury. Burrow is also returning from injury. A.J. Brown, I think that the Eagles are kind of actually declining some. Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's going to be some tough competition. And then Justin Jefferson, who has Darnold or J.J. McCarthy. I know he's really good, but those are the guys that are ranked ahead of him. So 14-1, I kind of like Puka's chances. It's not one of those that I'm placing a huge bet on, but it's one of those that it has such good value, and I could make the case for it that it's like, yeah, why not? Like, let's make a little $5-10 bet on this because it could pop off and pay out well. That's what I have to say to that. I'll get off my
How many times did we could have done a drinking game to you saying pop off?
Pop off.
I would not be nearly as drunk as I am right now.
No, but goodness, could you say pop off enough there, though?
Maybe.
I actually have a thought here, and I'm just kind of curious. I love that, we're putting the 49ers up at that, the number one spot, obviously, for anything else, because this is our division to lose, basically. But Rod, question for you. Do you think that there's any sort of like Super Bowl, worry at all?
The hangover?
Because the hangover?
So here's what I think. We already went through the sting of losing an NFC championship game. We had the sting of losing a Super Bowl as well, and a sting of losing another Super Bowl. This is getting to be where this is the time. This team will not stay this way much longer at all. We've already seen the cracks. We've already seen the writing on the wall that at some point this team, this nucleus that we have right now, will not last. And it's probably not even going to last after this season. I have a feeling that we're going to see some departures, and because you can't sustain a championship team like this for very long without having to pay a bunch of people, without having to trade a lot of people and make room, right? So this may be our last shot. So if you are Shanahan, if you're any one of these players, you understand that your window is getting very small now, and you have to make this work. So I don't know that there's anybody thinking back to last year saying, oh man, we were only so close. Now this year, I'm walking into that locker room. I'm like, this is it. It's Super Bowl win or bust at this point, because I'm not settling. I'm not feeling like I felt at the end of that game next year. Like, I'm going to be the one hoisting the trophy. I'm going to be the one kissing Taylor Swift. I'm going to be the one being the hero here and not the loser.
Man, that's going to create some sort of WWE event. George Kittle is kissing Taylor Swift.
Shake it off, Travis.
Live on Monday Night Raw, the confrontation between George Kittle and Travis Kelce in the main event in a steel cage matchup.
Jamie, stop doing this, Jamie.
Jamie asking, what bet are you willing to blow your whole wad on? And I am notorious and I'm three-peat. But for me, if I'm making a big bet, I'm taking the 49ers division. It's minus 195, so you're paying the juice. What's Cody saying about paying the juice, Rod?
Only pay the juice if you lose.
Exactly. And I don't think the 49ers lose this division. I know health can be a concern with them. Seems like they've had injuries, but I think they've drafted well to kind of replace, like, oh, if somebody goes down, we do have some pieces we can slot in that can keep us sustainable. So if I'm blowing my whole wad on some bet, where it's not like, a big plus money bet, it's 49ers win the division at minus 195. And again, you only pay the juice if you lose. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I know that a lot of people frown on laying that much juice, but again, who else is going to take this from them? I mean, it's going to take some math to get you to where you need to go to make a profit off of this, but I don't think you're losing this one.
Here's what you do. You take 49ers to win their division. You parlay that with Chiefs to win their division. And I think that'll get you to plus money. And those are two that I feel very confident on. So 49ers, Chiefs, parlay them together to win the division. There's your plus money. That I would put a decent bet on because I think it's easy money.
Good job. This is why you listen to this show, the innovative parlays you can make.
There you go. Guys, thank you so much for joining us, bringing your 49er fandom, but also your fantasy knowledge. Before we get you out of here, Rod, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and what they can look forward to, what you're up to?
You could find me on the floor after this, drinking and playing with Nick Fortune. But if you want to find me off the floor, follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on. I'm obviously the host of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast with my buddy Cody, and then the F1 Gambling Podcast, doing some stuff with In Between Media, talking NASCAR with them. So you can check out their channel as well. And then I also contribute to Sportsbook Review as a writer. Got an Indy 500 article coming up tomorrow for them as well. So, yeah, I mean, you know, when you're not as successful at one thing as you are at 100 things, you got to do those 100 things to make it work. So that's what I'm doing right now. Hopefully one will stick someday and I can be a big boy. But in the meantime, yeah, have fun following me. I love all you guys that support. Love you too. Love you, Nick. Man, this has been a blast. This is why I do this. This is why I've got into this space, is to have fun with guys and gals like you.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to make your Iowa trip sometime. And we can have drinks in person.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll all be on the floor, I feel like.
Won't take long.
Nick, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and what you're up to?
Well, you can find me on the X, on Fortune 78 X. I'm there. Don't really interact a whole lot. You can find me a little bit more interactive when I place out my soccer bets a lot on the soccer bet channel, on the Discord for the SGPN. I will probably be throwing out some of my bets over the weekend because we have some plays I do like. Of course, I will be sending them to Justin, which then he will curse at me by saying, "Why isn't this person shooting a goal? We need more action out of this. We need more corners. Come on, man."
Don't send me a bet with that one guy in it again.
You mean Kevin De Bruyne?
Yeah, Kevin De Bruyne.
KDB.
He never does anything when you send him a bet to me.
You know, good thing I'm not wearing that shirt tonight.
Maybe I'm his jinx. And he is Fortune 78X on the X, but he was not formerly Fortune 78 Twitter. It's a common misunderstanding there.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out.
It's been fun, guys.
If you feel like hanging out backstage while we review whiskey, you can. That's completely up to you. But otherwise, thank you guys and have a great night.
Love you guys so much.
Thank you guys.
So much.
Thank you.
Right back at you. All right, Miranda, why don't we go ahead and talk about this whiskey? I'm going to grab it and pour it while you give a little history.
Yes, I still have just somehow a tiny bit left. I was a slow sipper there.
You weren't
keep
playing
up
the
with you
game
guys.
as well.
Well, I caught on late.
Yes.
All right. But as I said earlier, we are drinking. Oh, I can't hold up the bottle. Hold up the bottle. Okay. We are drinking Belfour's. Well,
still have not completed
bourbon whiskey.
RD's idea.
No, I don't. Finished in Texas pecan wood.
Pecan. Oh.
You don't say pecan. You say no, you don't.
I do because
No,
I do because one of my favorite movies, judge me all you want, people, is A Star is Born, the new one. And Bradley Cooper in that movie says that he grew up with his daddy having a pecan farm.
Before that movie, though, you did not say pecan. You said pecan.
Maybe.
The correct way. All right. Before we get into the history, I just gotta say, this is a bottle. Like
It is a bottle. Right.
This is an amazing bottle. Look at the detail. I am in love with the bottle. This is pretty on the shelf. I love it. Would you just look at it?
Just look at it.
You can get information about Belfour Spirits at belfourspirits.com. They are located in Dallas, Texas, and they were started by brothers Ed Belfour and Dane Belfour. And for those of you who don't know, Ed Belfour was a professional hockey player.
Belfour.
Belfour?
Yeah.
That's what I said.
You know,
Belfour.
You're like, Belfour?
Belfour. Belfour. Anyway, he was a professional hockey player on many teams in many different leagues,
Including the Blackhawks.
including our Blackhawks. But he went on from there to play for the San Jose Sharks and then the Dallas Stars, and then he ended his career with the Florida Pirates.
Panthers,
Yep.
you were on such a
Damn it.
roll. I was impressed because I know you don't really watch hockey. I'm like, wow.
I messed up. Pirates sounds right for Florida, does it not?
Yeah, I get
The
it.
Panthers. Gosh.
Jamie pointing out the bottle is sweet.
Mhm.
Do you have information on this? If not, I'm going to tell
I
it.
don't know. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so Ed Belfour was a goalie at hockey,
Mhm.
and he had this screaming eagle thing on his mask.
Yes.
It looked
Mhm.
very intimidating, they always said. And so that's why they decided to put it on the bottle.
Yeah, and if you see like the sides too, I just really like.
But yeah, the I don't even know what you would call this, just the raised bumps on the glass. It is very cool.
Squares.
Bottle. The raised squares.
All right, now, so after his career, following his career, he started up Belfour Spirits with his brother. They had their first barrels in 2017, and they have like right now, like this is the bourbon, Texas bourbon, Texas pecan bourbon. They have a
Pecan.
no. They have a straight. Don't throw me off like that. It's pecan. They have a straight bourbon. They have a rye. They have a straight rye. Their rye, I am very interested in because you know how I like my ryes.
You do like rice,
And online, and I know you really don't like going off of like what they say about the whiskey online, but
I like to form my own
I
opinions.
know you
that's
do,
all.
but listen to this: burnt sea salt caramel.
Ooh,
Yeah, that was intriguing.
yeah.
And they said that like you can't put it, like you just keep pouring. So anyway, I was interested in that if we could get our hands on a bottle of that.
This
And
smells really good.
before, like I knew I really liked this in the old fashioned,
Mhm.
and I have come to like, as you like the Pacific Northwest
I do.
bourbons and whiskeys, and I have really come to get a taste for Texas whiskey.
You do often reach for the Balcones rye if we're gonna have a
Mhm.
drink. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
That's not the only Texas whiskey that we've had, though, is it? I am blanking on the other.
What's the other?
Oh no! Well,
We'll
now
figure it
this
out.
we will
This
figure it
one.
out. This one. So, did you try it and everything already?
I did. It's got a very is
You
that
can. It's
caramel
pecan.
sweetness and pecan.
Yeah, the pecan and the pecan.
yeah, no,
oh
the-
my gosh, you're making me say pecan.
It does
It's
really
there.
stick out. Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. It's very smooth it's 92 proof, so it's
Mhm.
not a super high proof, but it's not your bare minimum for a bourbon. But yeah, you do get a lot of the pecan wood for
Yeah.
sure, and just the taste of a pecan, a pecan.
Pecan. Can you just say it right?
Yeah. While you're tasting and thinking about it, this was finished like Miranda said in Texas pecan wood, inspired by an enormous pecan tree on the old Belfour Ranch, North Texas. This 92 proof bourbon whiskey ages with toasted pecan staves inserted into the barrels to provide its unique, but they feel like it's that nostalgic flavor
Mhm.
profile. So you got that aging process that's going on with the American white oak and the Texas pecan, and that gives you your brown sugar. I was thinking caramel, but maybe it's like a brown sugar roasting pecans.
Roasted.
You get that
Roasty or toasty? Roasty or
roasty
toasty?
or toasty.
From the flavor.
Around Christmas, my dad
smoky,
was
maybe.
always a big fan of pralines. You remember
Mhm.
those? This is like having a smoky praline. That's kind of what it tastes. It's got a lot of sweetness to it, for sure. But a little smokiness in that pecan as well.
It may be smoky, maybe a little, but I think it's more roasty or toasty. That's how I'm gonna term it.
Roasty or toasty?
Roasty or toasty.
Jamie
Next.
has Belfour's rookie card for the Blackhawks. And Belfour and Richter were his favorite goalies. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is.
I'm a Blackhawks fan. I don't watch hockey as much as I'd like to. There's just always so much going on, but I am a Chicago Blackhawks fan. I saw a comedian recently. Sorry, I know you're getting ready to talk about this, saying that they went to a high school whose mascot was the Blackhawks, and how when you are sitting in a crowd at a football game, there is not a huge distinction when the cheerleaders are saying, "Let's go Blackhawks." And now like you really have to know what they're talking about. Anyways, go on.
The show has taken a turn too many times tonight.
It was our drinking game with Nick.
And it was me just being an idiot as well. With the wrong saying the wrong thing. I am not gonna, I know you're gonna give me so much shit for that later.
Just blowing your load on Brock Purdy.
But no, anyway, I was going to ask you where we got this bottle.
Oh, yeah, that's an excellent point. So,
and then I'm just going to show this bottle again because I'm obsessed with it.
It is cool. The SGPN has a Patreon. Now, all their stuff is free, but there are some extra stuff for patrons and a competition every month. And every month there's prizes. And I happened to win the month that their prize was to pick a bottle of whiskey. And after I won, Sean said, just look for a bottle that we can ship you that's in X amount of range. It was $100. So that's the kind of prize that you'll get from them. And, $100, not the most expensive whiskey you can think of, but we don't on the regular go out and drop $100 on bottles. So it was like, oh, this is intriguing. And I started looking through and I found this one and thought we probably wouldn't pick this out and buy it for ourselves at the price it is, because I was uncertain of how the pecan and everything would affect it. But yeah, it affected it very well. And I'm happy that I picked this one because it is very good. At the time, seeing that it was Belfour, I didn't even realize, I didn't even put it together that it was Ed Belfour, from the Blackhawks. So that was like a little bonus. After we got it, I started looking at it and I looked at the back and I was like, oh, holy shit, Hockey Hall of Famer Ed Belfour. I remember that name now. So yeah,
when
that
you
was
were
pretty
like
cool.
10, no, you were less than 10. Oh my gosh, you were under 10.
It was less than 10.
No, because he played for the Blackhawks. And I looked up, I just stalked him online to get his information, which I'm so upset that I missed
You were doing so
the
well.
Panthers. And I said the Pirates. It makes sense.
I get it.
Florida,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I get it.
No, by 96 maybe was his last year with the Blackhawks. So what, were you 9? You were 9?
In 96, I was 9 at the time.
So how much do
I
you
was
really
trying to look it
remember
up.
of him on the Blackhawks?
I don't remember watching him. I remember the name because
Okay.
he is a Hall of Famer.
Mhm. Yes,
and,
he is.
Yeah. I just remembered the name. I'm trying to pull up the actual dates. Looks like he was starting in
90
and 91. Yeah. So yeah, I don't necessarily remember watching him play, but I remember the name.
Mhm.
I remember the name.
I feel like you're getting very defensive.
I remember the name Walter. I really watched him play. Just saying. He is right there. Well, he's not really right there, but you get it. YouTube.com/old-fashioned-football for some entertainment. And you can see that I was pointing to the Walter Payton jersey behind me and right next to the Brian Scott jersey. Make sure you check out the CFL Gambling podcast that Colby Dant and I are kind of relaunching.
Yeah.
But anyways,
you guys are a hoot? We
are a hoot. It is fun. Colby is a very fun guy. He's just a fun person to hang out with. So Jamie was 14 and he's got his rookie card and remembers. So
I can see that. He's 14. He's more advanced in his life than you were at the age of 9.
By 5 years. Come on. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on either the NFC West or the whiskey?
No, I just want to thank Rod and Nick for coming on with us tonight. We had a lot of fun with them. What division are we going to cover next week?
Next week, we have Mr. R.D. Summers coming on, and we are at the Packer fan.
So
We're covering the NFC North.
NFC North next week.
Our division. One more bet that I do kind of like. If you think Kyron Williams' injury is going to linger, you can get Blake Corum over 500.5 rushing yards at plus 100. So if you think Williams' injury may linger, 500.5 yards on the Rams team is not a lot, and it's plus money right now. So
if you're going to give another bet,
yeah,
then I'm going to throw one out there.
All right, let's do it.
I'm going to do this.
I like it. We are going to, during the regular season, we'll be ending the show with best bets from the Brass Giraffe, which if you haven't listened to us a long time, that is the name of the bar downstairs that we're going to kind of
There's a whole story behind it.
Yeah.
I love the story. I'm not going to get into the story now.
We'll cover it another day.
We'll cover another day. We have taken a lot of people's time tonight.
But we appreciate
But
you
I
guys.
am going to throw out another bet.
Yes.
Seahawks number of wins after 5 regular season games.
Ooh, this is like a deep dive.
I am. I did some looking, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So on DraftKings, okay, they play Denver. They're going to win.
Oh, yeah.
New England, sorry, Cody, they're going to win.
Sorry, Cody.
Miami, I don't know. I see that more as a loss.
Mhm.
Detroit, they always play Detroit close.
They do. Those seem to be electric games. For
Yes,
some
but I'm
reason.
going to say win.
Okay.
Giants win.
Yeah.
So I think that's 4 wins, that's a 3-1 plus 300. Apparently, I just like the 3-1.
Yeah, I guess you gave that out on your last one.
If you think they lose to Detroit, 3 wins is 2-1, so that's plus 200. So I think looking at that, but I'm gonna go with 3-1.
Yeah, no, I like it. That seems like they could very easily have 4 wins after the first 5 games. I don't remember seeing that bet before. I don't know if that's something new or just something I haven't paid attention to, but that's pretty intriguing. That's a neat angle for sure. Especially when you think about teams that can start fast and then they slow down. That's the Seahawks, in my opinion. I mean, Geno looks really good at the beginning of seasons, it seems like, and then he kind of looks a little more average. So, no, I like that one. 3-1.
3-1.
Easy money.
Or take the 2-1 if you don't trust me all the way.
I do. They play Detroit well. For even when you think, oh, Detroit's going to kill them, they seem to play them well. So, anything else you want to add?
No, this has been a great one.
It has been fun. Thanks again, like you said, to Rod and Nick. Always a blast hanging out with them. My old fashioned is gone. How's yours?
About gone.
Going once, going twice.
Sold.